Hi book girlies, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, my shelves are looking a little bit bare behind me today, and that is because I have pulled out all of the books that I'm going to recommend to you guys to read this fall. This is going to be a fall book recommendation video of all the books that I think fit the cozy fall vibe, and I'm also going to include some of the books that I am really hoping to get to in fall as well. The biggest genre that I pulled for this video is, of course, thrillers. I absolutely love my thrillers. I have so many thrillers back here, but I pulled a few of my favorites that I wanted to recommend to you guys. I think that thrillers just kind of fit the cozy fall feel. We're getting into spooky season soon, which I'm so excited for, and I just wanted to recommend to you guys some of my favorites from this category. The first one that I have here is The Eden Test by Adam Sternberg. This I read, I think, back in March of this year. It is definitely my favorite thriller of this year. I got sent a review copy and really didn't know much about it going into it, but it's basically about this couple named Daisy and Craig, and they're about to have their anniversary soon, and she plans this couples retreat for them to go on without him knowing. And he comes home from work and sees a note on the counter that's like, scratch dinner reservations, meet me at this location. And she is at this like secluded little cabin that is ran by this kind of like marriage couples counseling reconciliation kind of thing, and she knows that her marriage is kind of like on the brink of divorce, and she's trying to push past that. She doesn't know how much of they're on the brink of divorce though, because you see Craig's perspective, and he was actually planning on having a dinner with her tonight, and then the next morning he was going to break up with her because he has been having an affair with a girl this whole time. So he ends up just going to the cabin just to kind of appease her, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna show up, we're just gonna have like a nice dinner there, something like that, and then I'm gonna break the news to her tonight or tomorrow morning. Well, that gets pushed to be the next day and the next day, and you follow them on this like 7-day retreat. They have 7 questions that are sent to them by the marriage counseling company that they answer every day, and Craig kind of starts to grow more and more inclined to keep this marriage, but then you also see that Daisy has a lot of secrets he's been keeping from him throughout her marriage, and things get dark really quick, and I just ate this book up. It was amazing. I would definitely recommend this if you've read Verity or Neverlie by Freida McFadden. It doesn't have like really close same elements, but kind of like that couples thing, and like the wife or the husband has something weird going on, like that kind of trope is definitely in this book, and so if you liked either of those two, you would definitely like this one. The next thriller book I want to recommend to you guys is You Can Trust Me by Wendy Hurd. This is like a complete 180 compared to the other one. It's about 2 girls that have been homeless for a decent part of their lives. There's like a 5-year age gap between them. I'm pretty sure one's older and one's younger. They meet each other on the street. The oldest girl has learned a lot of tricks on how to con rich men, so she teaches her these tricks, and they basically live their life like conning super rich guys, getting money out of them, going up the coast of the Pacific Northwest, and you follow their story of trying to con one of the biggest wealthy men on the West Coast, and one of the girls actually starts to like him, but then she goes missing after their date, and so the other girl is trying to find her. She has to go to this super prestigious like island where this businessman runs his company, and it just, like how the other one, it gets really dark really quick, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and I really liked the like private island. She meets a bunch of people, you don't know if you can like trust them or not. It was really good. I'm trying not to give too much away because I feel like it's best to go into thrillers knowing the least amount as possible, but if you're looking for a thriller, this is also a really good contender as well. Of course, I have to bring up Miss Freida McFadden. I love this woman to death. She writes the best thrillers, the best fast-paced, like, twist you did not expect. She is just amazing at her writing, and I swear I read all of these books in like 4 hours after I'd picked them up. You can read them in one sitting. They're super quick, and they're all very different from one another, and she has like 30 books out there, which is quite shocking that she can come up with so many different storylines and surprise me every single time with the twist. So to break it down, these two are part of a series. We have The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret. They both are kind of loosely following her being a housemaid. She has secrets as to why she can't really get a corporate job. So she just kind of does like the personal work for people. She ends up becoming a housemaid. There's some weird things between the couple that goes on in here. She doesn't know if the husband's bad or if the woman's bad. There's a crazy twist in this one, and then this one kind of follows the same thing. She becomes a housemaid for a new family, and weird things are happening there as well. Like how I said, these books are amazing if you just want to sit down for a few hours and fly through a story. They're so quick to read and so unexpectedly crazy, and I just absolutely love these so much. With that being said, my all-time favorite book by her is Never Lie. This follows a couple who is going on a little tour of a house that they're planning on buying, and they're doing it in the dead of winter, of course, and their realtor, when they show up, ends up not being there, and they get snowed into the house that they're touring. And so they stay there for I think 2 nights, and the house was actually previously owned by a psychologist who is actually dead now. She was a very famous psychologist, and she actually recorded and transcribed all of her patients' counseling sessions without them knowing, and no one really knows how she died or why she died, kind of a thing. She just is dead. And so these tapes reveal the truth behind her death, and it was just so good. This was the first one that I read by her. I don't know if it's just kind of like a Frida thing that you love the first one that you read by her, but I would definitely recommend this one. It is my absolute favorite by her, and I feel like it's a lot different of a story than a lot of the repetitive tropes and stories that you get in thriller books nowadays. This is Freida McFadden's most recent release. It is called The Coworker. It is about a girl named Natalie who works for a women's health supplement company, and she kind of does the customer service and the sales for that company. And there's another girl who works there named Dawn, and Dawn is described as a little weird. She shows up to work on the dot, same time every single time. She has her coffee at the same time every day. She goes to the bathroom at the same time every day. She goes on her breaks the same time every day, and people in the office kind of make fun of her for that. And so anyways, Dawn does not show up to work one day, and Natalie is this is very bizarre. This has never happened before. And she's a little bit skeptical as to what's going on. She also, like how I said, they're kind of mean to Dawn for her eccentric personality, and Natalie's kind of the head of that. And so as the days go on that Dawn doesn't show up to work, Dawn is pronounced missing, and Natalie starts to get worried that she's going to be a suspect in this missing person possible murder investigation that is now coming about in the workplace. It is so good. I swear I'm saying that about every single book. That's why I'm recommending them. But this one's really, really good. I also have not read a coworker kind of murder mystery kind of thing going on. And this is also Freida's first, I'm pretty sure, book published with an actual publishing house. So you can find this one and The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret in Barnes & Nobles. I don't know if you can find the other ones. Maybe that's starting to happen now that her name is getting picked up. But out of all of her books, these are my 3 favorites that I would highly recommend to you guys to pick up. Okay, now that thrillers are out of the way, I want to recommend 2 of my favorite literary surrealism fiction works that I read both this year. I started off with Tara Story. I got sent a review copy for this one as well. This was my first surrealism literary fiction book that I had ever read, and I was very confused for the majority of this and was really on the line of if I liked it or not. And so I usually rate books within the hour of me finishing them and type up a review, but I was no, I want to sit on this. And I actually sat on it for 3 days, and each day that went on I thought about it more and I liked it more and more. It just really stuck with me. I don't want to say really what it's about because I feel it's really one of those books that you want to go into not knowing too much, but it's 4 short stories, but each story has a character from a previous story. There's a hint of magic in them, and it touches on every emotion that a human experiences: loss, sadness, death, anxiety, happiness, joy, independence, solitude. It literally touches on it all in these 200 pages, and I absolutely loved this book. Now, last month I picked up Temporary because I saw a TikTok that this book is recommended to people that are highly sensitive. And I got about halfway through it, and like how I said, I was really enjoying it. And then I looked at the author and I was like, Hillary Leacher, isn't this by her? And I just had no idea that this was the same author, like these two books had the same author. When I was reading this, I was getting like the same feeling that I was having with Tara's story, but I just literally did not think to make a connection. I was just like, oh, like this is my second like surrealism writing book. Obviously I'm gonna make the connection in my head, but no, it's actually the same author. And guys, this one is so freaking good. I loved this one even more. It's about a girl who does all these like temporary impossible jobs of like carrying babies for someone else and being a barnacle on a rock and subbing in for someone that's usually seasick, and she's just really wanting to find a temporary job that's actually going to be a permanent job in her life. She's yearning for steadiness, and she's yearning for her mom and like the child in her, and it's just so beautiful, and it's one that I am literally gonna think about for the rest of my life. I feel like if you have never read like surrealism writing before, I think this is a great author to start off on. I highly recommend both of these books. They are amazing. Okay, so for some fantasy, like dystopian recommendations for this time of year, I really want to recommend the Shadow and Bone series. Now, I've only read this one. I read it a long time ago, but then I also reread it last month, and I really enjoyed it. It was a super easy fantasy to get into. I tend to struggle with understanding like super complex worlds and grasping them, but this is YA, so that's probably part of the reason why, but I feel like, and it just has this like coziness to it that like I can't really like put into words, but I just feel like it would be a really great series that you can read super quick. I'm actually planning on reading the next two in the next month. These are super good. I know that it's best if you read these before Six of Crows. I think I've heard that from some people before, so I'm planning on finishing this series and then jumping into Six of Crows right after. It's basically about a girl who doesn't know that she had any powers. She came from an orphanage after her parents died and has been best friends with one of the kids that she met from the orphanage from a very long time ago, and then gets sent into their army and is kind of like a cartographer. And when they're on one of their expeditions crossing over to another city, they get attacked by these creatures, and she actually shows in that moment that she has this bright magic that can actually like change the course of like their entire world. And so she gets taken in by the Darkling, who is like the ruler, and he is trying to train her to use her magic to save the world, or that's what she thinks at least. So it's just a really nice series. It's a really easy trilogy to follow. I highly recommend this if you just want something like super fast paced but also like a fantasy at the same time. Two other books that I want to recommend. This is also a trilogy. It is called the Testing series. I have the Testing and I have Independent Study. The last book is called Graduation Day. I have not read that one yet, but I also read this a really long time ago, back when I had read Shadow and Bone, I think in like 2014 or 2015, and this just kind of like sparked my mind a few months ago, and I was like, I remember really enjoying this. So I got a copy, I reread it, and it was so good. I don't know why this series isn't talked about more. I literally have never seen it on Book Talk or BookTube or anything like that before, but it is a trilogy. It is for fans of Hunger Games and Divergent. It kind of has like that dystopian like society, and once kids turn 18 and graduate from like primary school, they are tested to see if they qualify to work in the corporate government kind of area that like this world has. And so she got selected along with a few other people, and her dad was also selected when he was younger. And when she got selected, he was kind of a little bit scared, and he comes to her the night before and is like, they're gonna give you like a serum to make you not remember what goes on in this 2-week duration that you're doing the testing. But I have had nightmares all my life ever since I did the testing about what I believe actually goes down, and so just don't trust anyone, be on your guard. And he kind of alludes to some like really dark things that they put these kids through, and it is very much so true. This book is quite gruesome. It has some very unexpected things that go on in it, but it really made me feel like nostalgic to the Hunger Games and Divergent and the time when I read those in my life, and I highly recommend picking these up as well. I also wanted to mention The Grace Year. I read this in my last reading vlog, and it is a dystopian YA. It kind of has like some women empowerment, girl power in it going on. It also reminds me of The Hunger Games. It's kind of like marketed towards people that really enjoyed The Hunger Games. It's about a girl named Tierney, and she lives in a society where once all the girls turn 16, they are one. Some of them are chosen by boys to be their husbands once they return from when they are sent off on their Grace Year, which is a year where they go to this encampment, and it's just all these like 16-year-old girls from your colony. And it is believed that when you're 16, women hold this power that's evil and like can like destroy the whole like ecosystem of their colony, so they send them off. But Tierney's very much so like, I don't want to get married, I just want to work and take care of my family. She's very different from all the other girls, and so it's kind of like a misogynistic thing that they instill into their minds, but Tierney never grasped that. And so you're following her over the course of the year of trying to survive and not have these girls that she's living with kill her, and then some also like truths come out about the colony, and the things that they've preached to these girls all their lives may not actually be true. Of course, I have to mention ACOTAR as well. I think that this time of year is the absolute perfect time to read this series. I have the rest back there, but God, this series just has like such a special place in my heart. It's the same feeling that you get from like Harry Potter and stuff like that when you're younger. That's just what this series gave to me. It's so mesmerizing and magical and cozy and warm feeling, and also like heartbreaking and destructive at the same time. This series is just absolutely amazing, and I'm sure that you guys kind of already know the gist of what these books are about. But if you guys have not read this series yet, please, if you're going to take any recommendation from this video, take reading these. They are so freaking good. So I have just a few books for romance that I want to recommend to you guys. It would not be my video if I did not recommend The 100 Loves of Juliet by Evelyn Skye. We all know that I love this book to death. It's my favorite book of 2023. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but Juliet gets reincarnated, and Romeo has lived through all the centuries from whenever Romeo and Juliet happened leading up to present time. And you follow a girl named Helene who just found out that her husband has been cheating on her, and so she says bye to her town and goes and starts her life all over again in Alaska, and is trying to focus on writing and just focus on herself and create her life as her own. And she stumbles upon Sebastian, who is Romeo, and he has been living for like a couple hundred years and knows that his Juliet gets reincarnated into girls all throughout his life, and as soon as he sees Helene at the bar, he knows that that is his Juliet. The bad thing though is that whenever they meet and they inevitably fall in love, as Romeo and Juliet did, Juliet actually dies. It's a very tragic curse that has been implanted on him ever since Juliet died in the original time frame that happened, and so he is so set on not having any interaction with this girl and not talking to her at all so she doesn't die, but she is so mesmerized by him because this is literally like her soulmate, her twin flame. And it is just such a beautiful story. I absolutely ate this book up. I want to reread it again soon. It really just like grasps the fact that love lasts longer than time, which is something that I heavily believe in, and it also reminds me of my all-time favorite Taylor Swift song, Timeless. So if you're kind of hopeless romantic like me, you will definitely like this book. It is so freaking beautiful and so heartbreaking, and please read this one as well. Two other romance books that I want to recommend to you guys is Wish You Were Here and Before We Were Strangers. These are both by Renee Carlino. She also writes really beautiful, tragic, heartbreaking love stories. I think that these just kind of fit the cozy like fall vibe as well, because you're probably gonna cry when you read these. She's written a lot of books. She wrote Swear on This Life and The Last Post that I also love by her. I read those a long time ago, so I don't have copies of them, but here is what they look like. I absolutely love these books to death. If I'm ever going to recommend a romance to anyone besides The 100 Loves of Juliet, it is going to be anything by this author. Okay, so now that I've gone through all the recommendations to you guys, I wanted to touch a little bit on some of the books that I'm really hoping to get to in the next few months of fall. A series that I want to tackle is the Natural series. This has been compared to like a YA kind of Criminal Minds murder investigation. Also for fans of, what's that called? A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. These just seem like super fast-paced books that you can fly through. I've heard literally nothing but good things about these. Apparently everything that Jennifer Lynn Barnes writes is amazing. So this is a series that I really want to dive into and hopefully complete in the next few months. My current read is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I have been reading this for an embarrassingly long amount of time. I am just so tired by the end of the day from my homework that I just do not want to read, which is so sad. But I actually did read like 50 pages of it last night, and when I do sit down and read it, I really enjoy it. I really want to compare this to like the Wednesday like Netflix TV show. It just kind of has like that sense of humor in it, but it's also like whimsical, like kind of like Alice in Wonderland, but it has like this like dry humor in it. You're following a girl named Evie who has become the assistant to a villain, and she's this super like sunshiny girl, and the villain is also this like really mean, morally gray guy that she sparks a little love for, but there's also someone who is a imposter in his manor and is about to sell him out to the king of like the kingdom that Evie is from. So she's trying to figure out who is trying to like sell her boss out, but along the way there's some silly things that happen, and also you're following kind of like him and her like brooding over a romance. I just think it's really cute and silly, and I would also like recommend this to you guys to pick up. But this is something that I need to get through so I can get to the other books that I want to read in the fall as well. And of course, I have to mention the book that I'm so embarrassed that I have not read yet. The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. We all know what this book is about. Like how I said, I'm so embarrassed that I have not read this yet. I think I'm just really scared that it's not going to live up to the hype that it has for everyone else, but I'm literally like, this is the next book that I'm reading after I finish Assistant to the Villain. I'm not letting myself read anything else. I have to read this book so I can finally like not scroll past like all the Fourth Wing like TikToks that I see on my For You page and everything. It's just time. Savannah, it's time. You need to read this. I'm gonna read this in the next month for sure. Another book that I want to get to kind of cut up all these like fantasy thriller books that I want to read in the coming months is To Be Continued by Grace Woods. Miss Grace sent this book to me and I am so thankful that she did. It is basically, I would compare it to the Twisted Love series, kind of how there's like a morally gray character, he only wants her, he's only nice to her, and I think this would just be a really good book to kind of like split up and have like a refresh between all of the other like more heavy-hitting books that I want to read in this coming fall. The last book that I really want to get to this fall is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I really want to read The 7-Year Slip by her as well, that I think she just released like in the last few weeks. Sarah, Destiny, and I'm pretty sure Haley Pham as well all read that book and absolutely raved about it. They loved it to death, and from how they described it and how it kind of has like a magical element to it, and she's a contemporary romance author. She reminds me a lot of Renee Carr Leno's writing, so I think I'm really going to enjoy these two books. Maybe she will even be one of my next favorite like contemporary romance authors. Okay, so that is all the recommendations I have for you guys for the fall in this week's video. If you want some more, I've been posting a few videos on my TikTok page for like fall recommendations that just kind of go through a lot of them quickly. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I had so much fun sitting down just talking about books with you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.